Welcome once again to Oberstdorf. Today the men take centre stage here in the Ried Cross Country Stadium for their 15,000 metre double pursuit. 15,000 metres in classic stride and glide, to be followed by another 15,000 metres in freestyle skate. This competition, a dress rehearsal 12 months ago, won by Germany's René Sommerfeld in the World Cup season. René Sommerfeld wrapped up the World Cup title and on the way had a victory here in Oberstdorf.
Ich glaube, ich gehe mit sehr viel Frust in das Rennen. Also das war gestern
René reflecting on his first race of the World Championship, which was a very poor one by his own admission. In fact, as he is explaining, the worst race he's put in for something like a year and a half, finishing 34th.
Ja, im letzten Jahr habe ich
So what about today?
Von daher gehe ich mit ganz guten Erinnerungen in das Rennen, aber
well, it's true. I won the World Cup event here a year ago, so I'm going into the race with good memories. But because my first race was not so good, I have a few problems judging my current performance. René Sommerfeld winning a year ago ahead of the Czech Lukas Bauer and Reto Bürgermeister of Switzerland actually in second place. And René Sommerfeld highlighting Lukas Bauer and the Italians, the Swedes, maybe Jürgen Brink, and the Norwegians, Estil, Scheldal. You learned already in Right in Winkel that there are some surprises, and the Italians have been a surprise for me. Well, the bookmakers this morning, they're taking no chances on Axel Teichmann, despite the fact that Axel Teichmann finished 24th here a year ago in the double pursuit. Axel Teichmann, they've made the 4-1 favourite ahead of the Czech Republic's 5.5-1 for Lukas Bauer and Pietro Pilakotra, the hero 48 hours ago in the men's 15 at 11-1. Well, welcome once again to Oberstdorf. David Goldstrom together with Inge Bråten, and as you can see, it's a pretty warm morning. In fact, at 7 o'clock this morning, when I opened the curtains, it was still snowing, but that has ceased now. But nonetheless, as you see the order in which they're going to start, it's a mass start with René Sommerfeld, the man who won the World Cup and one of Germany's favourite sons of cross-country, to lead the way out of the stadium. Now, Inge, it is warm today. The servicemen can draw from their experience of the women's double pursuit, won by Chapalova 24 hours ago. But what about the skis? What about the waxing?
They are saying it's a little bit easier today than it was yesterday, because it's more zero than it was yesterday. So they use a softer wax than yesterday, but only a little softer.
But the reports of everybody, the patrol who've been out and everybody on the track, saying that actually it's like a little icy. It's very slippy.
Yeah, it's slippy in the track, and a little more slippy than yesterday. That's good for them. It was a little more slippy than I thought yesterday.
And here are the men lining up on the track. The world's finest 96 competitors to go on the gun. So a very good Sunday morning to you from Oberstdorf in the German Allgäu. Inge Bråten together with myself, David Goldstrom. We're moments away from the start of the men's pursuit. 15 kilometres in classic style first, then 15 kilometres in freestyle. René Sommerfeld, the man who won the World Cup here, wears bib number 1. Teichmann, the bookies' favourite at 4-1, wears bib number 2. Vincent Vito for France wears 3. Matti Fredriksson for Sweden 4. And we'll keep you in touch with all of the races. But maybe one man to keep an eye on, the man wearing bib number 7, Lukas Bauer of the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic having a fantastic World Championships here. Katarina Neumanova, gold on the opening day in the 10-kilometre freestyle, and Yanda, a great silver in the ski jumping just last afternoon. So they charge out of the stadium, and the journey Inge, they're on the classic leg, the Borgstall leg.
Yeah, and the Borgstall leg is one of the hardest we have in the cross-country competition. We saw it for the women yesterday. It's steep uphill from after 600 meter up to 1.7 kilometer. And they are going that steep uphill 4 times in the 15-kilometer classic.
Now, some news from the Norwegian camp, some tactics, Inge.
Yeah, we have one man, Oddbjørn Hjelmeset, medalist from the Salt Lake City, will do the speed here at the first round, and we can see him already in the lead here uphill after 600 meters.
Now, the tactics from the coach and from Hjelmeset is to go out really fast, in a sense be a pacemaker for Frode Estil, to be a pacemaker maybe for Christian Scheldal.
So they can have a gap to the better skaters for the last 15 kilometers.
Because what they don't want is to have 20 altogether, and it's worth just reflecting that last year in the World Cup, the dress rehearsal for this very race, Sommerfeld won in an hour and 16 minutes, but the 25th man, that was Østberg, and Teichmann was just before him in an hour and 19, so it was really close, virtually 3 seconds separating the first 25, and that's what the Norwegians don't want to happen here.
But I don't think the Norwegians will be alone of that tactic. I also think the Estonian with Verpalu and Jakma will do something the same.
And talking about those two, Verpalu wears bib number 11, Jakma wearing 12, 4 going forward there. That's Matti Fredriksson from Sweden, who is another man who had a disappointing opening to these World Championships. But very interesting. Jakma and Verpalu, they've only just arrived 2 days ago here. Now, Jakma, he went to Ramsau to prepare. Verpalu went higher to Livigno.
And that's because Jakma normally has higher levels for the hemoglobin in the blood than Verpalu, so he need not that high altitude in the preparing for the championships.
And there at the bottom of your screen, through the, well, almost the first kilometre, you can see the order flashing through. It's very quick. You can see Lukas Bauer outside the top 20. The important thing here now is to really get yourself in your own zone, find your rhythm, and don't get involved in any silly skirmishes.
But the courses are very wide here in Oberstdorf, so that's not the main problem. I think, like in many other places, like Davos and those places in the world, is very good courses here in Oberstdorf. Also, the wide of them are very, very good.
So the man who's leading and well out of trouble is Matti Fredriksson from Sweden, this 32-year-old from Östersund who had, I have to say, a disappointing World Championships in Val di Fiemme, and was disappointing here in the opening 15-kilometer freestyle race when he was only 38th.
Disappointing all races after the Christmas, and the leaders for Sweden, they don't know what's wrong with Mattias Fredriksson, but we can see today he is trying his body. Maybe it's a good body today.
And of course the Swedes, without their double world pursuit champion Per Elofsson seemingly into retirement on a permanent basis. The Swede who won the championship in 2003, having won the pursuit also in 2001. Both of those years, of course, the test was over 20 kilometers. Today it's over 30.
Yes, so number 2 in Val di Fiemme, Hofstad from Norway, is not competing today, and Jørgen Brink, he was number 3 in Val di Fiemme. He is competing today with start number 29.
Were you surprised that Hofstad, after the good race, the medal in the men's 15, the bronze medal, that he didn't get a place?
No, I'm not. It's okay this year, but he had to train a lot more classic, so he can also be good in this race. This is maybe the most fascinating cross-country race we have here in Oberstdorf. It's also very important, excuse me, David, it's very important for the skier to show that they are very good both in classical technique and in skating.
Well, we've got a breakaway here, and quite a considerable breakaway that's happened. And I'll bring you up to date with that. We didn't actually obviously see the move.
34, I think.
That's Martin Tauber.
Yeah.
Martin Tauber of Austria, who doesn't ski very big races very often, but Tauber, who was 13th here in the World Cup, and that's his all-time lifetime best, has broken away by a good 30 meters.
And it's a high speed at the moment. We can also see 3 Norwegian are just in front of the race.
Yeah, the Norwegians leading the chasing group, and maybe those Norwegians have decided that Tauber's gone off at a suicidal pace, and that he's not going to be able to keep this up. But Tauber, well, he'd be a huge outsider to win here. I would think the bookmakers would give you 100 to 1 and more on Tauber doing anything. Just 28 years of age, 13th in Oberstdorf. His second best result, ironically, was the sprint in Kitzbühel when he was 15th. These are World Cup results, but that was way back in 1998. So last year here was the first sign of form that we've seen from him for 6 years. And the Austrians, of course, mighty disappointed on day one of the championships to have lost Christian Hoffmann through illness.
Not good for them, but I think it's a good thing to try here in the first round of the classical technique, and he must also have very good skis, that man from Austria.
Now leading the charge there, Frode Estil, and Estil absolutely a star for Norway. He is really a big-time racer. He's the Olympic pursuit champion, but I have to say he shares that gold medal with Thomas Ulsgaard, because when they were promoted up to gold, when Muleg was taken out and disqualified, then they share the gold.
He's much better in classic than in skating, that man from mid-Norway, Frode Estil, but when he's going together with many others, he can also manage a very good skating race.
Well, so far, 12th, I was going to say 12th in the 2003 World Championships, and in the World Cup this year, 9th and 13th in the 2 pursuits, so not too bad.
But he was not allowed to compete in Reitenwinkel because his level for the hemoglobin in the blood was too high. So he is also one of those who maybe not should be that much up in high altitude.
Yes, and when that happens and you declare your hemoglobin level above the legal limit, in the case of the men of 17 milligrams per milliliter,
yeah,
then you have to take, you are stood down from racing for 5 days, I think.
Yeah, 5 to 6 days, I think. Yeah, 5 days, that's correct.
So already taking the liquid on what is a pretty warm day here, and Martin Tauber, the race leader.
And it's in that mixed zone. You cannot stand the way you want in the course. The leaders and the trainers have to be in one place for each round.
Well, Tauber's made a very bold bid, clearly concerned that he needs to have a cushion of advantage over the chasing group. But as you said, Inge, it's a long way to go. 4 times they've got to do the big climb on this Bergstall Classic loop as they now twist and turn down to the stadium. And momentarily, looking out of our commentary box, we should be able to see Martin Tauber of Austria.
And the steep uphill is real hard. It's more than 70 meters from the bottom up to the top after more than 1 kilometer uphill.
So they're coming into the 3.75 meter turn here in the stadium, and here's Tauber. And you can see the speed through there over the bridge, and now right in front of the crowds. And the group's beginning to sort them out. We'll give you a full check in a moment as they go through the quarter distance in the quarter distance in the first of the phases. And Tauber well, being pushed on, but the danger is here. Is he skiing beyond himself into second place? We're just trying to catch up on the computer because they are so tightly packed together. Dementiev only 2 seconds off the pace there.
What we have on our screen, David, is completely wrong, so we have to look out in the stadium ourselves.
Matti Fredriksson, you can see on the near side, just dropping back a little bit. Jakmai just at the back of that chasing group in blue for Estonia. And incidentally, news on Christina Smigan, who pulled out of the women's double pursuit, the defending champion. Christina, nothing wrong physically, just mentally uncertain of herself and unable to go on. And I fear that it means, Inge, that Christina Smigan is unlikely to medal at these championships.
Yeah, I think so. She will go the relay for Estonia, but they will not take any medal, and I think Christina will not take part in the last competition, the 30-kilometer in classical technique.
And you may have seen one or two women pulling out as early as the first lap yesterday. It wasn't anything to do with their fitness or, in many cases, their ability. It was simply that the skis and wax were wrong, and they didn't have a chance and had no choice but to pull up. And we're still having computer problems here. And we haven't yet got the order for the...
And I think you won't get it, David, so we have to wait up till 4.5 kilometers to see the gaps between the Austrian and the others.
So here we get a chance to see Hjelmeset in the white hat there, leading the charge. 21, that's Martin Bacicak. Now Bacicak, we talked to him, and he was the man who had that sensational first ever World Cup victory for Slovakia right in Winkel just a few days before the opening ceremony of these World Championships. And he felt, Martin Bacicak, that he really hadn't had enough time to recover and calm down. Because of that notable victory, the Slovakian press were all over him like a swarm. And you can see Rennie Sommerfeld, last year's leader, there in the top 10. Matti Fredriksson has slipped to 15th. Pankratov, who was in the action here a year ago in the World Championship, in 10th place. Chris Freeman from the United States, good to see him in the competition. Chris Freeman, who had that fantastic 4th place finish in the World Championships over 15 kilometers classic style. And he's the man who is a diabetic, so has to plan 3 injections a day into his training program. 5 kilometers, Martin Tauber in the lead from Oddbjørn Hjelmeset, who, as you can see now, is beginning to close the gap. Vincent Vito of France up there in that leading group with Bacicak wearing all grey, and then Andrei Golovko for Kazakhstan ahead of Dementiev of Russia. And then Rennie Sommerfeld and Södergren and Sheldal also making a forward move with Tobias Angera. So they're wearing 20. That's Mikhail Botvinov also making some progress. Botvinov, one of the senior men on the tour, formerly skied for Russia, but is now a teammate of this man, Martin Tauber. Botvinov, who lives at Obertauern. And 9 going through, that's Fulvio Valbuza, Pietro Pilacotra and Barbuza, who finished 1st and 2nd in the 15-kilometer race. Absolutely delighted, as they should be. Roommates and really soulmates. Delighted to give Italy that sort of performance. And Pietro Pilacotra, well, the bookmakers have offered 11-1 for him to get a